Hello to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. The topic I'd like to speak about today is called Detaching with Love. And the reason why I would like to speak about this is I've had a very difficult week. It was a difficult week, but it was a week that was filled with growth on my side. A lot of personal growth, a lot of spiritual growth, and a lot of presence and awareness that has ended up bringing this topic to the fore. So, I've mentioned in my previous episodes that there is this workshop that I attend on a weekly basis. And as I was, recounting my week and what it is my week was all about, we realized that the incidences and the experiences of this week needed me to do some research into this topic of detaching with love. Now, I've heard about this previously. I know it is one of the main topics around the 12-step program of Al-Anon. And from that workshop, I was given homework to really look into this topic. I am not a member of Al-Anon, but I have read some of the texts, and for the purposes of this research, I obviously had to look at the literature around detaching with love, and who better to explain this to me than Al-Anon's literature. So the concept of detaching with love is often associated with codependency, addiction recovery, and relationships. Now, on this channel, I speak about addiction, I speak about mental health issues, I speak about life, and how I learn and how I grow and how I can use these programs and these texts and literature to improve myself as an individual. So for the purposes of this episode, I have looked at some literature related to the Al-Anon program. I've looked at some literature written and published by Hazelden. I've looked at some other literature about boundaries. I've looked at the language of letting go. And I also remembered how the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, can be used within this concept of detaching with love. So I would like to get into it now. I think I have enough information to be able to sort of summarize my understanding of this topic today. And based on these books that I've read and the book Alcoholics Anonymous, of course, the fourth edition, which was published in the year 2001. So here, I'll be diving into the topic, and that has become to hold some value in my personal relationships and in my emotional well-being. And this concept can bring about healthier connections, as far as I understand, within the family, within friendships or romantic relationships. It is also a concept that can be applied to parent-child relationships, and I'd like to just explore it a little bit more here. And I would like to look at how it can positively impact my life or our lives, This concept at its core is rooted in psychology and emotional self-care. It's about maintaining a healthy distance from someone's actions, emotions, or decisions without the loss of my own sense of compassion and empathy. This practice doesn't mean disconnecting emotionally or abandoning the people that I care about. It is rather a way to create a healthier dynamic and preserve my own mental and emotional well being. So, why is it important to do this? When I become overly entangled in someone else's issues or emotions, it can lead to burnout, it can lead to the creation of resentments, and those can lead to strained relationships. Now, detaching with love allows me to provide support without enabling a destructive environment with destructive behaviors or losing myself in the process. It's like finding that balance. A lot of people like talking about balance, but here it is quite important because it is a balance that needs to be maintained between being supportive to somebody and being respective of somebody's personal journey and what they are going through. And it is a delicate balance because it involves a lot of emotions, it involves a lot of investments, and it involves a lot of intricacies that need to be maintained within relationships. Detaching with love involves a few key principles, and one of those principles, which I've spoken about in a few of my episodes, is the issue of the importance of setting and maintaining of healthy boundaries. Now, these boundaries can protect my own emotional space while I offer others my support. It allows me to be able to communicate. When I set up these boundaries, I need to be able to communicate them to other parties. And while communicating them to other parties, I need to also be able to explain to them what it is I would like for my own life, for my own space, what it is that I do not like. After communicating this, I need to be able to be there for the ones that I love, the ones I care about, the ones that need my help. And for me to be able to do that, I need to be able to be empathetic, listen actively to what others have to say to me, understand or try and understand what it is that they are feeling, and what their perspective may be. Now, it's very important to understand that I cannot put myself in somebody else's feelings. I cannot put myself in somebody else's perspective, so to speak, because my experience and the other person's experience can never be the same. How the other person feels about a specific event versus how I feel about the exact same event results in differences in how we perceive the same event. So I can never put myself in somebody else's shoes completely to such a point where I can say, I know what you're going through. We were discussing in the workshop yesterday that the way I feel is literally based on what I have experienced versus what another has experienced. And if I'm being empathetic, I can only relate back to what I have experienced and my feelings towards what it is that I experienced, and tapping into my experience, I can show empathy to the person I'm listening to. And through my experience, I can understand that other person's feelings, their perspectives, without trying to fix everything, you know? And sometimes lending a compassionate ear can be more powerful than offering a solution. So, some of you might know that I'm studying psychology at the moment, and I'm learning so much from doing this degree. And, you know, one of the methods, one of the counseling modalities we looked at in the last term is the Hegerian modality, which says that we need to assist others in finding their own solutions instead of giving them a solution or offering them solutions. And that's one of the things I like about that modality, that counseling modality. So a core aspect of detaching with love is maintaining compassion and empathy. And what this means is that even as I step back, I still care deeply about the person and their well-being. It's about recognizing that they are on their own journey and they have their own powers to make their own choices, even if those choices are not the same choices that we would make, or a choice that we would advise them to make. So I need to be able to step back and allow the person the space to go through what it is that they need to go through at the time. I'd like to have a look at a parent-child relationship where a parent is watching their adult child struggling with a challenging decision. As an example, detaching with love might involve offering guidance only if asked, but ultimately allowing the child to take ownership of their own choices. As an example, I have an adult child, and there was a situation that I did not like. I didn't like the choices he was making, but it took time for me to get to that point where I was literally forced to take a step back and let go. And it's working out at the moment. I am not interfering. I am not getting involved with the choices. But I would like to think that my adult child knows that if they need to get a hold of me, they can at any point. And I'm here to offer guidance to them. Another thing that I would like to look at as an example of stepping back, as an illustration of detaching with love, would be being able to support a friend who's going through a tough time. But instead of trying to solve all of their problems, detaching with love means being a steady presence, understanding that the friend is capable of navigating whatever challenges that they're facing. And detaching with love means that that friend is aware that you are a steady point where they can refer to when necessary, and you will be there to actively listen. You will be there to even be the sounding board. And there are so many benefits in applying this concept of detaching with love. I just wanted to use these two examples quickly. Applying this concept can prevent us from becoming emotionally drained by the issues of others, and perhaps most importantly, it can promote personal growth. Because when we allow others to learn from their own experiences, we then empower them to become more resilient and self-reliant, which is a really important process in the growth journey. And detaching with love is a really difficult concept, and it can be a challenge, especially if or when we are used to being very deeply involved in others' lives and others' dramas and others' everything. It is very difficult to apply this concept because usually, like with me as an example, when somebody calls me and they say, "Oh my gosh, I am struggling financially," the first thing I want to do is offer to borrow them money, which is not necessarily, may not be necessarily the solution that will help them through their challenges. Or if there is drama around my neighborhood, as an example, I used to get involved in it, thinking at that time that I am helping the situation. But in fact, I was just being part of the drama and I was just adding on to what already exists without stepping back and allowing the situation to unfold on its own, and for the people involved in that situation to find their own solution. Getting involved sometimes also takes away from me. It takes away from my self-care. It takes away from, taking care of my own emotional needs and seeking support when I need it. And it just, by getting myself involved in others' businesses and others' dramas and other situations, it leaves me in a worse off position, as I cannot offer healthy support to others because I become part of the problem instead of being able to support others and offer healthier options to others. So this is a practice that promotes healthier relationships, personal growth, and emotional well-being. And it doesn't mean that I care less about you. In fact, it's a way of me showing that I care, but in more balanced ways and in more sustainable ways. And this is quite important for me because if I get involved in the drama, I just add on to the problem. And I need to stop adding on to the problems and dramas and challenges of others and start focusing on myself. Now, earlier on, I mentioned the book, The Four Agreements. This book by Don Miguel Ruiz. I don't even know if I pronounce his name correctly, but I am open to be corrected. And this book is based on the ancient Toltec wisdom and presents 4 guiding principles. There is another book called The Fifth Agreement, which is really also a really nice book to read. But this book specifically talks about 4 guiding principles for living a life of personal freedom and fulfillment. And this book, I'm referring to it now because these 4 agreements can be applied into this concept of detaching with love, because they are literally as follows. He says you need to be impeccable with your words, or with your word. You need to be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And it is very simple 4 rules that I have decided to include in this podcast as support towards this concept. Now, when he says be impeccable with your words, this agreement that he says emphasizes the power of our words and the importance of using them truthfully and positively. Avoid speaking negatively about me or about others or about the community, about the world. And by being impeccable with my word, I can build trust, create a better relationship, and foster a more positive environment. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. And this agreement encourages me not to internalize the opinions and actions of others. People's behavior is a reflection of their own experiences and beliefs, not a judgment of my worth. When I stop taking things personally, I can then free myself from needless suffering, and I can maintain a more balanced perspective on the situation, on life, and on what is happening around me. The third one says, don't make assumptions, and assumptions, as we all know, lead to misunderstandings and unnecessary conflicts. This agreement urges me to ask questions and communicate clearly instead of assuming I know what you are thinking or feeling, and by avoiding assumptions, I can avoid unnecessary drama and foster healthier relationships. And the last one says, I need to always do my best. And this one encourages me to give my best effort in all situations, regardless of what the outcome is. And it is about me striving for personal excellence without attaching my self-worth to external results, or attaching my self-worth based on your opinion, or attaching my self-worth based on how things will turn out. And when I always do my best, I can feel a sense of accomplishment and self-respect. And this can happen regardless of who says what about me in life, because I will know that I am always doing the best that I can. And I cannot be found to be apologetic about it. So I have had a situation where I did the best that I could for somebody who requested my help. And at that point, the tools that I had were insufficient. And I did make a plan, and I made it happen as per the request. However, the results of my effort were not communicated timeously, I should say. And that person was really upset because they had no information as to what happened, because the communication did not happen. However, based on whatever it is that they were going through at the time, their reaction to the delay in communication was honest, and it wasn't a kind response or a kind reaction, And with that, I was able to sit back and reflect and assess and say, but I did the best that I could at that point. And therefore, the best that I could do for you at that point was not good enough. It is okay for me to take a step back and say, I did do the best that I could with what I had. And just because it didn't work out the way my friend expected it to work out, it is okay for me because I did the best that I could at that point, So Ruby suggests that by integrating these four agreements into our lives, I can transform my perception of myself and of the world around me. And through the transformation with these four agreements, or what this concept of detaching with love can lead to my own personal freedom, my reduced suffering, and finding a way of having better relationships and improved relationships where we respect each other's boundaries, we respect each other's uniqueness, and we respect each other's personal journeys, and in the process, hopefully find greater happiness, find a better way of relating with each other, So there are specific tools and texts that can help us with this practice of detaching with love. So on Friday, something happened as well. Another thing happened on Friday. And when I woke up on Saturday morning, based on my reaction to the situation on Friday night, I was surprised by the fact that I was able to wake up feeling good without any resentments, without any anger. And I was focused on the present moment. I woke up with gratitude. I woke up with the sense of being present and aware and at peace with myself. And there are texts that are available that one can read on a daily basis to help maintain this place of serenity and peace of mind by letting go of others' choices. And I looked at this book from Al-Anon called Courage to Change. And this book covers topics such as boundaries, finding inner strength, practicing self-care, and learning to detach from the destructive behaviors of a loved one while still maintaining compassion. And this book offers daily insights and encouragement to help me as a reader to navigate the complexities of my relationships and the emotions that are involved, while at the same time promoting a healthier approach to dealing with challenges of loving someone who is on their own journey, whether they are recovering from addiction, whether they are going through very challenging situations and have major expectations of others. And courage to change is literally a daily reader that was published by Al-Anon, which is a support group for families and friends of alcoholics specifically. And this book is filled with daily meditations and reflections to help me find strength, acceptance, and healing while dealing with challenges of caring for somebody who is struggling with alcoholism. Al-Anon literature really, really gets into the detaching with love from that perspective of someone who lives with an alcoholic, but it can be applied to any other situation if you're looking to provide love and care to others while maintaining your own self care and making sure that you remain sober and don't get into the codependency of unhealthy relationships. Another book that I used for this episode is a book called The Language of Letting Go, which is very similar to The Courage to Change, as it is a daily meditation book written by Melody Beattie. for people recovering from codependency this time. Codependency, addiction, and other challenges. So, this book is not exclusively about detaching with love, but it does address the concept as a whole, as the overall theme of how to heal personal relationships and promote personal growth. And this book provides wisdom and encouragement, helping us to embrace that concept of detaching with love as part of our journey toward greater emotional well being and healthier relationships. Melody Beattie wrote another book called Dependent No More. And Dependent No More is a book about breaking free from unhealthy patterns in relationships. While the book covers a wide range of topics relating to codependency, it also touches on the concept of detaching with love as the fundamental aspect of healing and personal growth. Codependent No More looks at recognizing the need for boundaries, the need for letting go of control, and the need for disentangling oneself from the dysfunctional behaviors and emotions of others. And it looks and it emphasizes the importance of me to take care of myself, to be self-aware, and to understand that detaching with love is not about abandoning the people I love. It's not about that abandonment. It's rather about fostering healthier connections by taking care of my own well-being. I think there was an episode I spoke about. I think it was somebody said to me that how do you expect, they asked me a question, they said, how do you expect to help others when you are pouring from an empty cup? And some of these concepts sound very cliche, but if my cup is empty, I cannot help you. I need to first fill it. I need to fill my cup. I need to be healthy. I need to be at least in a situation where I can be strong enough to help you, and it is okay. It is okay to say no. I cannot right now. It is okay for me to be able to take a step back and say, this is not my circus. These are not my monkeys. I need to take a step back from this because I am not healthy enough to help you. And part of the message that I received on Thursday was, I understand you have got your own problems. However, you can still help me even though you've got your own personal problems. Now, let me just break this down a little bit. If I have personal problems, which most of the time I do, I can help you if I have the capacity to help you. But if I have personal problems and I do not have the capacity because my cup is completely empty, then it is okay for me to take a step back and be able to say, I can only go this far, or I can help you in this way. However, if my cup is completely empty and I do not have the energy, I do not have financial means, I am really, really down and out, And I still say to you, I will see what I can do. Right now, this is the problem I have. I'm not able to help you right now, but I will see what I can do. And you turn around and think that I am saying no and I should always have the capacity to say yes, then that relationship is an unhealthy relationship, because first of all, it means when I say I can't help, you don't respect my words. You don't trust that my words are true. You perhaps feel the entitlement to my space, my time, and you feel the entitlement to my help, regardless of what is happening on my side of the street. Then that is an unhealthy relationship, I would think, based on what I have read for the purposes of this podcast. I welcome any corrections, if there are any. I can get practical advice on how to practice the detachment with love, so I can break free from these patterns that create noise. And with that noise removed from me, I can then be able to, create more healthier and more balanced connections. So, what is the point? Why do I have to practice this concept of detaching with love? So, I have looked at what the concept is all about. I have looked at how to practice it. But now I'd like to look at the why of it. Why is this concept and why practicing of this concept so important? And this is why I was feeling the way I was yesterday. Yesterday morning when I woke up, following this very interesting, challenging week, I was able to wake up in the morning feeling emotionally free. So I experienced this concept of detaching with love intuitively instead of intentionally. And the result was still there. But obviously going forward, following my other episode of shifting from intuition to intention, I can then apply this to practically put it into practice and see and understand why I felt the way I felt yesterday. So when I intuitively detached with love from these situations from this week, my friendship, my business relationships, my partner, etc., I woke up yesterday morning with emotional freedom. All right. And this detaching with love that I did intuitively, I was able to disentangle myself from that emotional roller coaster that I often go through when I'm dealing with challenging relationships, when I'm dealing with other people's choices, and I was able to experience a greater sense of emotional freedom, a greater sense of being stable, as I was no longer being affected by the choices of the ones I care about, and the negativity associated with those choices, which was very interesting for me. And I woke up without stress. I had no stress. I felt no drama. I felt no turmoil in my life. And my creating this distance from the previous days and the reaction of others, I was able to reduce the stresses that have in the past impacted on my mental and my physical health, and how I would then, build resentments. And when I realized all of this, I was like, hang on a second, I can actually make that choice. And because now I know I can make that choice to detach, I feel better about myself. Because I no longer feel like I have to apologize. I no longer feel like I have to self-criticize or think negatively of my reactions and the rights that I have to feel a certain way about others' actions and others' choices. It allows me to value myself more, and it allows me to protect myself from the drama of others, and I really like the way I feel, and I feel a higher self-confidence, and I feel a better image of myself. I see myself in a better light. And exercising my boundaries that I've put in place, I'm able to practice the skill of remembering what I've said is important to me when it comes to my well-being, and I've put in that boundary that I will not allow unhealthy relationships across all aspects of my life to be part of my life. And for me, learning to say no and prioritizing my needs is really important, so I can make space for healthier connections, and I can make space for healthier relationships, And if I make that space, then I create a space where I can heal. I was quite hurt this week by words that were uttered. And I was able to take a step back and first of all say, I cannot spend more energy on explaining myself. It is not necessary. This is who I am. I don't see a problem with who I am and how I was able to do the best that I could with what I had. I could take a step back and give myself time to heal, give myself time to process what happened. And this ability to be able to process what happens then takes me back to what I mentioned in a previous episode, where I speak about the unconscious incompetences, and moving from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence, and even further. I was able to then process that, move from that into a conscious competence, which is the third level. And hopefully in the future, I can make enough space to reach that point of mastering my emotions and being able to choose how I feel, and being able to choose to be happy internally, and not be affected by external issues. And because of that, I was able to conserve my energy, not be drained from my resources, the little resources I have right now as I go through this journey. And me unintentionally detaching with love has helped me conserve that emotional and mental energy. And from that energy, I was able to put into other activities and other pursuits, and focus more on my healthier relationships with my family, with my kids, with the people around me, and look more into bringing joy and positivity into my life. And as a result, I'm putting my personal growth in the fore. I'm prioritizing my personal growth, because if I am able to detach from the choices of others, and love them without judging their choices, and practicing detachment with love, is can enable me to focus on my own personal growth and development without the constant distraction of others and what they do and what choices that they make. And I can therefore channel my efforts into learning more, like I just did, and persist and the pursuance of my goals, and therefore I can become the best version of myself, and trust that I do not necessarily need the approval of others while I go through this journey of personal growth. And as I go through this journey of personal growth, I can then choose to have more positive relationships. I can then choose to have the healthier relationships, and I can make space for those relationships in my life, and I can surround myself with people who will uplift, support, and inspire me, and not necessarily get into the relationships that are tit for tat. I do this for you, so you do this for me. I do that for you, you have to do this for me. Look for more balanced relationships that will help me grow, and relationships where I can help others to grow too, And I can feel, with my growth right now, I can feel an improved mental state, And when I focus on others and other people's dramas, it leads to anxiety, it leads to depression, it leads to so many other issues. And detaching with love can help alleviate these symptoms and these mental ailments, associated with anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. And finally, when I started this channel, I used to say something like, to find happiness, serenity, and peace of mind. And as the final point, I'd like to say that detaching with love, practiced correctly, can ultimately allow us the opportunity to cultivate inner peace, I believe. Because me being no longer entangled in chaos and drama and unpredictability of others, I believe, according to these texts and according to these books that I've read for the purposes of this podcast, I should be able to find a newfound peace, and have a more far-reaching positivity in my life, and ultimately maybe some enlightenment, maybe some serenity, and maybe be able to maybe finally reach what Maslow refers to as self-actualization. Is it possible? Well, Maslow says we all strive to self-actualize. And self-actualization really is the realization of one's full potential and the pursuit of personal growth, creativity, and fulfillment. Becoming the best version of myself and achieving that sense of purpose and meaning in life. And according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization comes self-actualization comes after fulfilling the more basic needs, which is where I am right now. Trying to sort out my physiological needs, my safety needs, my social needs, and my esteem needs. And once these, he says, are met, then I can focus on self discovery, creativity, personal development, and a deeper understanding of my full potential, you know. So, according to Maslow, not everybody reaches the stage of self actualization, and it is rather considered to be a continuous journey rather than a fixed destination. But it is suggested that only a small percentage of people will truly achieve self actualization, as it requires a lot for one to get there, including personal traits, life circumstances, and a commitment to personal growth and exploration. And I think this is what I'm doing right now. And so perhaps one day I might be one of those few who does reach it. So thank you so much for listening till now. And I really I want to say thank you to all of those who do subscribe to my podcast on a monthly basis. I really, really, really want to say thank you to you. I appreciate you. See you next time. Goodbye.